My name is Beth, and I want to welcome you to this session. This is a nice, simple one pose restorative session. I'm kind of excited about this one because this is actually one of my most favorite poses to teach. I love to share this with others because I find it so relaxing and I think it feels so good. That's something that you can do after this class. If you remember how the setup is, it's very basic and you can really use it anytime. You are going to need a blanket. So what we're going to do is we're going to settle in for a second. We're going to find our breath. I'm going to take you into the pose, which is just a gentle heart opener. And then I'm going to let you enjoy the pose for probably about 3 minutes, and then I'll slowly bring you out. And that's it. It's just a nice, short, simple segment. If you're not familiar with restorative yoga is all about the nervous system. It's all about calming the nervous system. We are stressed and we are intense and we go all the time. And this is just a beautiful practice that balances out all that activity that we have in our lives to just kind of calm us down and de-stress us and get rid of all that cortisol that we carry around that wreaks havoc on our body. So just find a comfortable position on the floor. You don't need a yoga mat. You just need a little bit of space and a blanket. That's all you need to do this little practice. But just find a comfortable position to start. It doesn't matter what that is, whatever you feel called to, whatever your body's feeling like it's called to find its way into. And then let's close the eyes. And depending on where you ended up, just take a moment to check in with your posture. Just sit yourself up nice and tall. Pull the shoulder blades together. Open the chest just a little bit. And let's just take a few rounds of breath. Just inhaling through the nose, exhaling out of the mouth. Just start to settle the mind. Maybe even elongate that exhale so we can kind of slow down the heart rate, start to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Just take maybe 2 more rounds here. And with the eyes closed, maybe use the next moment or so to find that drishti, find that focus point. It can be a mantra, it can be a picture of your favorite place, it can be your breath, just something to draw your attention back to over and over again. So as those thoughts start to creep in, we have that focus point to, and it just draws back to the present moment. You can go ahead and start to open the eyes. And then depending on where you ended up, you might want to come back to a seated position if you're not there already. And we are going to set up our blanket. So you're going to take your blanket from however it was folded, and you're actually going to make a long rectangle with it. And this setup will kind of depend on how thick your blanket is. This style blanket that I have is the more traditional style blanket that is used in yoga, but really you can use any style. And we're going to come into a heart opener. So you're going to kind of decide how thick you want it. And maybe through this practice that I guide you through, you kind of try it one way, and then maybe on your own, you can try it another way and figure out which one you prefer. So from that rectangle, you're going to open it up one more time. So now you have a fatter rectangle or a larger rectangle. And to make it a little bit softer of a blanket, to make the thickness of our setup a little bit less, if you don't want it quite as strong, you're going to take that blanket and you're going to tri-fold it. You're going to fold it into thirds. So you end up with 3 layers and you end up with this super long, skinny rectangle. If you want to try the blanket a little bit thicker, you're going to open it back up to that rectangle and you're going to accordion fold it. So you're going to lay it on the floor and you're just going to weave it back and forth so that you end up this time with 4 layers. Okay. This is my personal preference, but that's just me. And then you are going to place it behind you. And you're going to make your way onto your sit bones with your knees bent. And then you're going to reach behind you and you're going to slide that blanket up. So the edge of the blanket meets up where the hiney meets the mat, okay? So it should end up just about where your tailbone is, the very base of your spine. And you don't want to be sitting on it at any point because then it's gonna cause a little bit of discomfort there in the low back. So set it up, maybe you can look behind you because what you want to do is you want to have it in line with your spine. So as you bring your hands behind you for a little bit of support and you start to lower yourself down, that blanket lines right up with the spine. It feels so nice. And you might find that you have to even scoot your tailbone down a little bit. So depending on how that feels on your low back, it takes a minute to set it up. And then from here, what you're going to do is you're going to take your peace sign fingers, your index and your middle fingers, and you are going to slide them between the blanket and the floor, or between the blanket and the mat, right behind your neck. And then you're going to pick your head up, though it's kind of hard to see. Press those fingers into your neck so the blanket is pressed right up against your neck, and then set your head back down. So that when you set your head back down, then you have this little speed bump right underneath your neck, and it feels so good. And then you have a couple of options before we focus on setting up kind of our torso and our shoulders, and to figure out what you want to do with your legs. You can extend the legs out long, just rest them. If that creates a little bit too much sensation in your low back, I'm going to have you bend the knees. Widen the feet a little and then let the knees rest on each other. Or if you want to add a little bit of a hip stretch, which makes it a smidge less restorative, but some people really like to work into their hips, you can come into bound ankle pose. And that's bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees float open to the side. But I'm going to bring my knees into, it's called TP pose. Just let my knees rest on each other. So from here then, bring the arms out to the side. I'm going to have you kind of draw the shoulders up, back, and down. And then start to relax the shoulder blades into the mat. If they don't touch, that's fine. And take a scan. And notice if any places in your body that you can let go. Maybe some tension developed, or maybe you're holding on a little bit, that you can just soften the muscles. And there's always, inevitably, there's always a spot. There's always something that we're holding on to. And then close the eyes. Let's soften the jaw. Maybe even let the teeth separate a little bit. Take a nice big breath in, exhale out. Before I send you off in some stillness and some silence, maybe bring your attention back to that drishti, back to that focus point, so those thoughts don't start to creep in. And just allow yourself to surrender, allow yourself to relax right into this pose. And I will be here to bring you back when it's time. You're softly beginning to deepen your breath. Just enough that you can kind of bring your attention back to where you are. And maybe just using the next moment or so to kind of notice how you feel. Maybe as your body started to relax, you actually notice that your back started to kind of mold over that blanket and your chest started to open. You feel ready, maybe find a little movement in your fingers and your toes. Just want to remind you that coming out of this is completely optional. So if you want to, spend a few more moments here, if you're enjoying yourself, then by all means, go right ahead. Otherwise, we can close your practice just staying where you are. Or if you want to roll to one side, press yourself up to seated. Bringing the hands to heart center, closing the eyes. And as I ask at the end of every practice, take a moment of gratitude. Gratitude for yourself. Gratitude for yourself for finding stillness, for taking just a few moments out of your day to just be still. It's just something we don't do often enough. And of course, I have gratitude and want to thank you for sharing your practice with me, sharing your time with me. I really hope that you enjoyed that. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and I'd love to hear your feedback on what your thoughts were on that. If you want to leave me a review or you wish to contact me, my email address can be found in my bio. So I just want to say thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.